Full rolling Harrier circle. Hey guys, it's John. Good to see you again. Today I'm flying the brand new E-flite Commander mPd at Sug Farm in Holly Springs, North Carolina. I'm going to change up flying locations depending on what I'm flying. I only feel confident flying my jets at my local airport. Tail draggers, however, fly best here at Hawk Field, part of the Holly Springs Skyhawks Club. What's going on, YouTube? John without the H here. Today we're going to be flying at the Holly Springs Skyhawks RC field, which is also known as Hawk Field. As you may have seen in the intro, there's a little bit of a rain shower that we're dealing with today. But what we're going to do today is we're going to do a proper review of the mPd Commander that E-flite just released. So let's go ahead and snap to that real quick. So let's go through a general overview of this model. This is a really well built model. I actually really enjoy it so far. And when I say really enjoy, I haven't even flown it yet. So when I say really enjoy, I'm talking about the quality of the build. This is the first propeller E-flite model that I've personally flown that comes with servo doors, which I've already unscrewed and replaced one of the servos because it was a little wonky. That's not really an indication of anything wrong with the model. It's more of an indication of mass production. Sometimes stuff slips through. The model goes together really well. Again, one of the other issues I had was I had to hacksaw the carbon tube to fit together. Unfortunately, that's also something that happens occasionally. I just happened to get two issues with one model. The last time this happened to me was with the Maul M7 when I had to actually send the whole unit back because the wing tube wouldn't fit in. But aside from that, everything else tests out flawlessly. The model goes together really quickly. I mean, it really takes nothing more than a couple of minutes to put together at most. There's 4 wing screws to put on, so we're going to switch to that, and I will show you how easy this is to put together. One of the things I'm going to recommend doing to you, or for you, is take these screw bags that they come with and put some electrical tape on it so that you know which one goes to which. If you have a lot of models like I do, it gets very easy to forget which screw goes where. Obviously you can do it with trial and error, but I find it just faster to label things. So we're gonna go ahead and screw this plane together, do a quick pre-flight check, make sure everything's working the way it should. Do our rear screws first and then put my screw bag in my pocket so I don't lose them. If I do, for whatever reason, drop the screws in the ground, this is very short manicured grass. I shouldn't lose the screws. In the case that I do have a Craftsman extendable magnet, which I can just use to pick it up and we'll be good to go. Honestly, the longest part of the whole installation process of the wings is really just getting the wings screwed in. So it's a pretty robust connection system. The wing plugs are also in there as well, so you do have to align them just slightly to make sure that they go in correctly. Nothing too terribly hard. I feel like a ratcheting screwdriver might be a little faster on this. Okay, switch to the front screws, drop the bag in my pocket, and then get this thing ready to go. I don't know if you guys are interested in this sort of thing, but I know some other channels like to do this, so I figured I'd show you guys the process of building this plane for its maiden flight. My cameraman Tony's not here today. He's currently off in a different town. I'm not going to speculate about his personal life on channel. But he's out having fun, so I figured give him a break since we have more content coming that he's already shot with me. There's a little ant on there. Get off there. Okay, so the plane is put together at this point. We're going to look inside of the plane. I'll show you some of the changes I made. One of the first things I did was I took out the AR631, put in an AR637TA that I had spare. I've got quite a few of them. I had to solder on, not even solder, but use a DuPont connector to put a new Flaperon lead in there. I actually split the lead. If I can actually take this tape off, it's there to hold it on and keep it in place. But there's 2 separate flap servo leads now instead of it being on a Y cable, so I went ahead and set that up correctly. All I had to do was just snip it at the root. Imagine this is the Y cable here. I just snipped it at the root and then connected a new connector at the end of it and then plugged it in and used this tape to hold it in place so it can't come loose. I've extended the servo arms so that all the throw is as far as it can possibly go. Let's go ahead and get this thing connected. So I'll show you guys what else I've done to it. And then we'll get into an actual review. So they called for a 2200 4S pack recommendation from Horizon for this one. So we'll see how well that flies here. Go ahead and plug this in. Cool. I prefer my planes to be a little on the more neutral side of things, if not completely neutral. So we're going to have this battery all the way back here. Jiggle it, make sure it's not going to come loose, which it will not. We also have the GPS in there so we can figure out how fast this thing goes. Close that down. Get the plane on the ground so it will actually initialize, otherwise it's going to just dance in the wind. Okay, so while we're looking at the plane, the reason why I split the flap was so that I could have full span ailerons on the Maiden. Holding a lot of back pressure to get this thing to taxi out. Before we go to the takeoff and everything, I'm going to go ahead and just check a couple things off camera and then we'll be right back. All right guys, we are back. Just had to make sure that the camera was actually pointed down throughout that entire segment that I shot. Otherwise I'd have to reshoot all of it, of course. So let's do a direction test. We got left, right, up, down, rudder right, rudder left. Cut the throttle. We're gonna have to preface this by saying I forgot to bring the GoPro 7 mount, so I cannot actually use the chest cam, so it's just gonna be a standard video for today. Back to the roots of the channel a little bit. Let's do the safe test real quick with the throttle cut on. Make sure that the AS3X directions are correct. So if I roll up, the wing on the left tries to push it down, vice versa. Pushing the nose down makes the elevator in the back pop up, and down when it goes up. Looks like everything's good to go. It's a little wet out here. I actually sat in my vehicle for a bit of time waiting for the rain to clear up. So we're gonna hopefully have some fun. Looks like the rain might be coming back, so let's go ahead and get this done. Hold the elevator pressure. We're just gonna launch her into the air as fast as we can. Okay, get those speed callouts going.
34.8 miles per hour. 55.3 miles per hour.
Hopefully you guys can see all this. It's very, very agile.
Miles per hour.
Let's turn off that voice.
Battery 15.9 volts.
Okay, looks like I need to trim her real quick. Let's make sure we can do that. Wind's starting to pick up. I may have to land here momentarily. Flying right before a thunderstorm probably wasn't a good idea, but you guys know how we do in this channel.
Ailerons.
Okay, so we're just on ailerons right now. Let's see what the roll rate is. Pretty good.
Flaperons. 1 minute.
Pretty impressive roll rate.
Flaperons.
Okay, I'm liking what I see.
Battery 16.2 volts.
A little bit of yaw coupling when I go into knife edge. Put her in safe real quick, look behind me. Okay, it looks like we're fine. Just making sure that the storm's not coming. If it is though, let's get some practice on landings real quick, just so I can get her down quick without damaging. So,
full flaps.
Flaps coming in. Should have no problem getting her down safe. A little bit of turbulence.
Battery 15.9 volts. Flaps up.
All right, let's taxi her back. That was a quick maiden flight. Just wanted to make sure everything went together and flew the way it should. If the rain starts coming up, we will take her, or we'll have to go hide for a little bit because I don't want to get all my electronics wet. But I like how this thing flies. I think it might be a little touched, a little bit on the touch like of a tail heavy side of things. Maybe it's hard to tell in this turbulence out here that we're flying in. I'm gonna cut real quick, check the weather, and we'll be right back. Still on the same battery. So far, so good. Let's see what the max speed was. Not that much of a test, but just to see anyway.
56.5 miles per hour.
Not bad for a prop. We're not really even trying. To get a good speed test going though, let's get another takeoff. Hold that tail down. Now if you guys didn't know, I'm flying this plane on behalf of Hangar 18 Hobbies here in beautiful Cary, North Carolina. You guys need to make sure you give them a check out. If you're in the area, be sure to shop. Man, I think it's got some speed. Make sure you shop there if you can. Oh yeah. It's got a lot more agility than I think it would otherwise. Let's try that again with just regular ailerons. It does different things depending on whether the ailerons are in the prop wash or not. That's pretty cool. Check the top speed.
80.2 miles per hour.
It's not bad, 80 miles an hour. So yeah, you guys definitely need to check Brian out at Hangar 18. They have a great selection of models. Does rolling Harriers, look at it go. Cool. Yeah, I mean, Hangar is like the place I go to shop, and unfortunately I'm trying to talk about them and fly at the same time, which is totally doable for me, but I just want to really push the envelope with the split this plane can do. Let's turn the stabilization down just a little bit, put her into a flat spin after a snap roll.
3 minutes.
Okay, not much of a flat spinner. It could be with the 13 to 15 mile an hour winds that are coming from behind me. Let's try that again. Okay, holding. Yeah, definitely not anywhere close to being capable of doing a flat spin with the battery location where it's at. That's okay. You can still do rolling Harriers in it, which is, I mean, I expected that it would be able to when I made the ailerons work the way they did. But yeah, guys, so back to the shop. I've been the demo pilot for Hangar 18 for a while, and it's been pretty awesome. I do get occasional snarky comments from people that I just remove, where they're like, "You're not a demo pilot, you're not good enough to be one." And I'm like, okay, that's your opinion, you're more than welcome to it. Doesn't really bug me. I used to work retail, and I heard a lot worse from people than that. So you gotta really try hard to get under my skin. Let's try hovering, see how well she does. Okay, it's gonna be hard to tell whether it's gonna hover well with this half-dead battery and the wind that's flying in. Well, got a bit of a torque roll out of it though. But yeah, no, I occasionally get some rude comments on the channel, and it's like, to me, it's like, doesn't bother me that much really. You guys are welcome to say whatever you want, but if you can't be constructive, please just don't bother commenting, because you're just gonna waste your time and mine. I will remove it.
Battery 14.7 volts.
All right, let's bring her up and see if I can do a knife edge spin with it. So it does it momentarily. I think the battery's just kind of getting dead. We'll swap batteries out here momentarily. Let's go ahead and get into the flaps and bring her down safe. So far, it's if I had to give it a review score, I'd say this is a pretty solid plane, man. Aside from the small issues I had with it.
Engine reversed. Battery 15 volts. Engine normal.
And I forgot to mention I do have reverse thrust set up as well. But yeah, no, the partnership I've had with Hangar 18 has been pretty sweet. It allows me to do things like this where I get to talk about the shop while I fly models and do what I want to them. I've had comments in the past where people say, "Oh, you're getting product for free," or whatever, and that's further from the truth than could possibly be. Honestly, I do not get anything I fly for free except for the 5280 RC afterburners and any other afterburners that get sent to me. I've never flown a free model. Everything I've paid for out of pocket. I choose to work with Hangar because they're a good company. They're local. I like to support local when I can. And honestly, they're just really good people, and it's awesome to work with them and be able to showcase what these models can do, because they have the same philosophy that I do, where, you know, there's like, what, 40 or 50 other channels where you can watch people fly in circles. If that's your thing, go do it, cool. But if you're watching me, you're probably here because you want to see what some of these models can really do. This one, I haven't seen anybody doing flat spins with it. I haven't seen anyone do hovering with it yet. Honestly, I haven't really seen people do much more than general aerobatic flying, but I want to make this thing into a 3D monster. So what we're going to do, now that we've mentioned Hangar and all that other cool stuff, is we're going to switch to another pack. We're going to go into another 2200, maybe this 2800 reaction 2 pack. Actually, this one's on its last legs, but I think it'll serve us well. We'll go ahead and swap the battery out. Oh, let's see what the top speed is one more time before we.
14.7, 80.2 miles per hour.
80.2. So yeah, it's a prop plane. It's not designed for high speeds. So could I make it faster? Yeah, but 80 miles an hour, I'd say is not bad at all. So let's go ahead and put this battery back over here. It's barely even warm. And I brought my charger with me too if I want to recharge some packs. But yeah, let's get this thing up, see what we can do with it. This one's about as light as a 2200, yet it has 600 more milliamps. We're gonna get that battery even further back this time around. See if we can do some other cool stuff with it. Get it strapped down tight. I'm using a Lowe's Craftsman shelf liner to hold the battery in here as good as I can get it to stay. Got to put it on the ground so it will initialize, make sure we're on throttle cut, because I'm going to hold it upside down, and we will take a look at the center of gravity so you guys can see where I'm balancing at. Let's hold it sideways so the wings don't catch lift. Okay. Let's see. We are kind of nose down at this point right here. Hopefully you can see that. So it's about where it's supposed to be in the center of gravity for the manual. I could probably get it back further. I'd have to redesign some of the components inside of it and maybe change where some locations of stuff is, but that might just end up causing it to fly poorly. So we'll just accept it as it is for now and see what we can do within the limitations of the model. So for those of you guys who don't know, I am flying this with 150% rates. I have completely made everything move as far as it possibly can. I haven't changed the servos though. That might be something I do in the future. I do like how this flies, so we'll have to see whether or not it survives with how I'm going to be flying it. All right, looks like the rain's not coming, so we're going to continue going right back up. But before we do that, I'm going to cut here and make another dynamite reaction to 2850C pack. I've had this one for about 2 years. It is on its last legs, but it should work well for what we're going to do with it. Holding some elevator pressure so we can get over this grass without toppling over. A little bit of wind out here. Snap roll.
Battery 15.3 volts.
Does that really well. We'll see how long these foam hinges hold up with the way I fly. Sorry I'm not zoomed in today. Of course, with Tony not being here, I have to use my GoPro Hero 10, which is interesting. Tumbling. Wow, that's really good. I like the way that thing tumbles. So, in reference to tumbling, let's take it up real quick. Flip it over. Blender. Does it well.
Battery 15.2 volts.
Next thing we're going to check is the
Snap flap. Elevated flaps.
Harrier response. With the Harrier flaps, it does Harriers really well. Not as well as I'm hoping. It could be turbulence,
Wing normal.
but it did hold the nose up. Let's get it into the wind. I don't want to get too low to the ground. I'm not sure how it's going to handle it yet. So this is the mix that makes the flaps pop upward. Yeah, we're going to get out of that. It's too turbulent and or the plane doesn't want to do it. I'm not entirely sure.
Battery 15.6 volts.
Let's try it without Harrier flaps. I got to goose the throttle a bit to make it do it. Gets a little wing rocky. Let's try a crankshaft. That's not a crankshaft at all, so it may need a little bit more adjustment to get it to do what I want. Let's try again. Full throttle. That's not bad, actually. For a Commander, I mean, this is not really a 3D plane. I'm flying it like it's one, though. Okay, the wind's died. Let's try the Harrier mix.
Snap flaps.
Okay, getting out of that. That was snap flaps, never mind. That was adding downward flap rather than upward flap to cancel the lift. But yeah, since you guys are watching, totally make sure you check out Hangar 18, Hangar18hobbies.com, Instagram.com/Hangar18hobbies,
Battery 15.4 volts.
TikTok.com/@Hangar18hobbies, and of course Facebook.com/Hangar18hobbies. Great little store. If you guys are local, be sure to check them out. It's so awesome to work with these guys and be able to do this kind of stuff. Let's do reverse thrust in midair.
Engine reversed. Engine normal.
That's loud. I haven't done invert it yet. Handles it pretty well.
Battery 14.7 volts.
I don't know how much longer this battery's gonna last. I'm kind of abusing it. It's probably poofing up right now if I had to wager a guess. Flies really well though. Let's get a quick, I'm afraid to do touch and goes on wet grass, but let's go ahead and get a quick one in. We are flying with an APC prop, so what's the worst that can happen? Am I right? Got a wind coming from behind me here.
Battery 15.3 volt. Flaps up.
Let's turn that into slow flap performance instead. Level the wings out and bring the flaps back in.
Flaps. 8 minutes.
Hey, the sun's coming out too. Let's go over and Hammerhead and come back and try to do it. Okay, rudder authority is not where I want it to be, so if you're looking for a plane with a lot of rudder, this one's not exactly it.
Flaps up.
My approaches are doo-doo. I'm having a hard time getting her to land in this confined area. It's one of the reasons why I don't fly here much.
Full flaps.
The Holly Springs Skyhawks are pretty cool people though, so if you are in the area and you want to fly with some cool people,
Flaps up.
I'd recommend that you check them out. Let's try again.
Full flaps.
Coming into the flaps. Keep those wings level.
Flaps up.
Just about nosed over into the grass. Check the power.
Battery 14.4 volts.
That thing really does not care. It does almost anything you want it to do within reason. Let's try Hammerheads one more time. Full rudder, and it barely does anything. That's unfortunate. Try again. Yeah, if you add elevator to it, it does cool stuff, but if you try it with just the rudder alone, it doesn't have enough authority. Voltage.
Battery 14.9 volts. Full flaps.
Bring her in before we beat this battery up even more.
Flaps up.
It's fun shooting approaches in a small field.
Full flaps.
Gonna come in with the flaps pointed right at us here. There we go. It is nice to be able to land anywhere I want for a change. Normally,
15.1 volts.
the airport that I fly at requires me to really finesse every single landing, and I have to land within a very small area of width. But with this model, I can pretty much land wherever I want, which is kind of nice. And if I really need to slow down, I can just hit reverse thrust. You can see I've been chopping up bugs. There's blood all over the propeller. I'll have to wipe that off when I get back home. But yeah, I mean, the verdict so far, we're going to take it up and do some more stuff with it, but the verdict so far is that this is a very capable airframe, and you can do a lot of really cool stuff with it. Honestly, if at the price point that it's at, I think it's $299 retail, you totally would be missing out if you didn't get this thing. It's really a lot of fun. We're going to switch right back, come back with another battery, and we'll be right back. Okay, so I just grabbed a 50C 2200 Smart Pack 4-cell. I don't see a point in flying this plane at anything but 4S. I mean, you could probably do 3S if you used a bigger propeller, but the 12x6 that this thing came with is designed for 4 cells. Let's check the smart level real quick, make sure the ESC is not even overheating. It's hitting 140 degrees, which is really, really good. Horizon wasn't joking. Jason M on the RC Group's forum mentioned they basically engineered this thing to be at the edge of its performance envelope. So it's pretty much there. I have to agree with him on that. Okay, we're gonna push this battery back even further this time around. Hopefully it won't come loose. Tighten that down real good. Let it initialize. Hopefully it will with the wind. Worst case scenario, I'll just put it on the ground. We're in throttle cut, so don't worry about my hand. Okay, we're gonna wiggle this real quick. It's not going anywhere. We're gonna have to do some extreme aerobatics for this thing to pop loose, which well, you guys know how I do things, so maybe that'll happen. I want to do some more rolling Harriers with this thing, maybe a little closer to the ground now that the wind's kind of started to subside just a little bit. Gotta say, it's kind of weird flying with the neck strap. I haven't done that in quite a while now, since I started getting into chest cam filming. All right, we are at half flaps. Checking around, make sure nobody on the field or anything. All right, let's go. Holding some elevator pressure to get over this grass. Rotate. Okay, before we do that though, the rolling Harrier stuff, I want to bring her up, try a knife edge spin. Interesting. Okay, try it again. Full down, full left rudder, full throttle. Oh yeah, that's a KE spin for you. I was afraid it wouldn't do it at all. A little bit of raindrops out here I'm getting hit with. Let's try that again. Get a nice long one, maybe turn it into a blender. That's pretty cool, man. It actually makes a very graceful looking knife edge spin. Let's try some hovering a little higher up, see how she's gonna respond to it. Glad I got a lot of hover practice, because that used to freak me out when the plane wouldn't go where I wanted it to. Gotta use a lot of throttle to get it to hover. It doesn't want to do it. Trying to get it to roll back with the full span. There we go. Let's hold it in place. kind of wants to hover, but it doesn't. Okay, got it. Hey, yeah, this is not much of a hovering plane. It's gonna take some finesse, maybe some more rearward center of gravity adjustments to get it to do it. But it does that like crazy. It's almost like, that's the craziest tumble I think I've seen a foam model do in a while. My Viper Jet does something pretty similar. I like it. And I also like that we have some clouds so you guys can see what it's doing. Let's try some more hovering tests. So if you're getting this plane to hover so far, I'm gonna tell you it's not a hovering plane. You can make it do it, but it doesn't want to. Get the callouts going.
15.3 volts.
Okay, we're wearing this battery down trying to hover it for sure. But I don't want to do this close to the ground because, yeah, it tries to throttle out of it. Like, not throttle, but push out of it, like the nose wants to drop. You got to hold copious amounts of back elevator pressure for it to do it. So one more time. Got to review these things, what they can actually do. I don't believe in reviewing things as flying them in a circle, honestly. You got to do more than that. All right, let's do the knife edge test so you guys can see how well it does that. Holding rudder right now, it's pretty good. That's about half rudder. Let's do it again with a lot more rudder and to see how it handles that as well. A little bit of a roll tendency. We're gonna cancel out there, there we go. Okay, get her up higher, see how she's gonna handle this. Full rudder, holding back elevator pressure because it's trying to snap over. Getting kind of a death slide right now. I gotta say it handles knife edge pretty good, but when you use full rudder at the CG that I'm at, which is about where it recommends it, you need to hold back elevator pressure. So it's gonna try to push away from you. Here's what it does if you don't. Whoop, let me get her turned around here. Sorry guys. I'm a decent pilot, but I'm not perfect, so I make a lot of mistakes. All right, holding full. See how it pushes away? I correct it for it quickly. It may not show up very well on the GoPro, but trust me, it started nosing down towards the, what do you call it? Towards the trees.
14.7 volts.
But at higher speeds and less rudder input, it holds a knife edge really well. Look at that go. So is this like the best plane ever? No, by far no. I think the extra 300 from E-flite is a better model.
Battery 14.9 volts.
If you're trying to do 3D, if you're doing more aerobatic stuff that isn't 3D crazy like this, then I think you'll have a lot more fun with this model. Me, I'm gonna make it do 3D because that's just what I do. So I'm gonna try that Harrier flaps thing again because if I can get this thing to Harrier low to the ground, I'm gonna be in hog heaven. That's my benchmark for a lot of models.
4 minutes.
I'm using a ton of rudder. I have to like constantly correct the wing drop that it's doing. It definitely doesn't want to do it. Let's take her up and make her do a blender again. You guys only saw that once. Wish I could give you an altitude. We're probably at about 300 feet right now. Makes a pretty nice looking blender though. I have to admit, I like it. Snap flap and flip over.
Snap flaps.
Very tight radius on that flip,
6 volts.
which is from the side is this again, holding snap flaps, pulling all the way back, and the plane just kind of launches itself around the nose. CG needs to be further back. I said the same thing about the RV7, but the RV7 is not as much of an aerobatic model as this one is. You can do aerobatics with the RV7, but with this model, it's more built for that kind of stuff. Oh, I didn't even do rolling Harriers.
Battery 14.8 volts.
All right, do it again. The recovery is not hard either.
Battery 14.5 volts.
It's almost like the plane was built to do this. I actually really like it. I'm not even flying with regular ailerons. I'm using the Flaperons. I'm gonna walk out a little further here. There we go. Let's make it do the rolling Harrier again. Actually, real quick, I have to scratch my arm because I got bugs attacking me. I got these bug bands on me, but they use citronella in them and some other fragrances or whatever that bugs don't like. But with all the wind, it's pushing the fragrances away, which is making the bugs attack me. All right, now that we're back into a better frame of mind, let's get a little closer and do it. It's not the best looking rolling Harrier. Part of that is because I'm running low on power and I've been flying this plane like crazy. But so far my verdict is it's a really good plane. One thing it just doesn't do well is flat spins. But it does inverted flat spins, aka the blender, really well. Let's bring her in, get a nice approach.
14.7 volts.
Perfect. That wasn't the best landing. I kind of bounced the tail wheel a little bit, but you know, the other ones are pretty good, I like to think. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm gonna come right back up. I got plenty more batteries where this came from. We're gonna see what the performance like is when it's on the nose heavier side of things than it already is with a 3200 pack. But before we do that, let's check the ESC temp. 134 degrees after all that flying. This thing is a really good model, guys. Like, you're totally missing out if you don't get one. So make sure that you do. Hi guys, we're back. For this flight, we're gonna go ahead and use a 3200 50C Smart Pack. I've had this thing, these are really good batteries, man. I've had this one for like 200 cycles now. It's crazy, and it's still in really good shape too. The batteries are like, I don't know what they do to them to make them so nice, but I mean, obviously they're on the pricey side of things, so you know, if you can afford to get them, I'd say do it. But I usually go for Z packs, but I gotta say these have held up better than my Z packs, but I also spent a lot more on them too. So that, you would hope that you get what you pay for. So for this, we're gonna move the battery about as far back as I can physically get it to sit comfortably without having to worry about it coming apart or coming loose. And the same thing I did last time, which is pull the battery strap as hard as I can without breaking the plastic tray that it's sitting in. Okay, now we need to get it on the ground. So this should be significantly nose heavier than what we've been flying. It'll probably balance close to here, I'd imagine. So we're gonna hold her up and find out, holding the plane sideways against the incoming wind. Okay, we are nose heavy at almost in the same spot, actually. That's interesting. So behind the little fuel tank cap, whatever that thing is called. All right, adjusting this head cam. Feels like I'm on the forefront of the videos for this thing. There's only been one other one, and it was by that one fellow I just got here. So it's weird because normally all the influencer types have gotten their videos up by this point. Normally I'm not the first person to do this, or among the first.
Flaps up, engine normal.
Yeah, for a moment I put it into reverse thrust thinking it was a jet and I had to lift the landing gear, and I just about crashed like an idiot. All right, let's do a speed test with the 3200 pack. Let's get a nice long approach here. Still 80 miles an hour, which is surprising. Let's try from right to left here, away from those power lines, with the wind.
80.2 miles per hour.
All right, well, we're not gonna get anything better than that, I guess. Let's bring her up and make her do that weird Lomcevak looking tumble.
7 minutes.
Still does it, even with this new battery pack, which is significantly heavier. Let's try hovering a little higher. Hovering still kind of doo-doo. Is that an ice cream truck? It is. I haven't heard one of those since I was a kid, man. They don't come to the house I live in because the neighborhood I live in is a lot of older people. So there's really not a whole lot of kids there. Wow, that thing just snaps around. We need to check the control surface integrity pretty soon just to make sure that the foam hinges are holding up, because otherwise I'm going to have to rehinge them. All right, let's do some knife edge passes.
Battery 15.5 volts.
I like this thing. Let's do some inverted flight with it too. It's a very narrow, not narrow, but a very,
8 minutes.
I'm in a bowl of trees. There's trees all around this little flying field here. So it's interesting.
15.7 volts.
Not too low, not too high. I could be more adventurous, but it's a maiden day and I want this plane to live for a while because I just got it. Rolling Harrier time. Well, it does it. Let's see if it does it without the flaperons and the prop wash. I'm almost guaranteeing it won't.
Battery 15.4 volts.
In fact, I would probably wager it will not, because you kind of need the prop wash for it to work. Yeah, it does not work at all.
Flaperons.
So back in the flaperons. Just take her up and try a flat spin one more time. We only did it once. I want to see if it was just a fluke or if it is a CG issue.
9 minutes.
Definitely a CG issue.
Battery 15.4 volts.
With that heavier pack, I almost lost it on the way down. Both sticks to the top left on that one to see what it would do. Let's go full speed and try that. Wow! That was cool. Oh my gosh, if Tony had been here, he could have zoomed in on that. That was like a Lomcevak or something, or that was actually a crankshaft, or very close to it. Wow! Look at that!
Battery 15.2 volts.
We're gonna do that one more time, and then we're gonna check the integrity of the foam hinges because I don't know if they're gonna hold up to this. This is awesome. I love when like every model has its own unique little quirks that does really cool stuff. Okay, here we go. All right, let's bring her down and take a look at the hinges.
Battery 15 volts.
I mean, the fact that I'm still controlling the plane is a good sign. But that was really cool.
Full flaps.
Kind of a steep descent here. I think we got it though.
Flaps up.
Yep, let's turn her around.
10 minutes. Full flaps.
Ah, hate landing here sometimes. It's one of the reasons why I go to the airport is I can have a nice long straight approach.
Battery 15 volts.
Even if it's a crosswind, I can still do it. Here, it's just, there's not a whole lot of room.
Full flaps.
I have a long 3,000 feet to work with over there.
Engine reversed. Engine flaps up.
All right, let's take a look at those hinges, guys, because some of those maneuvers that thing was doing are going to potentially lead to degradation of the foam hinge. Aileron hinge looks great. I don't see anything wrong with it. Flaperon hinges look great. Let's check the right side. Hinge looks good there. Hinge looks good there. Not a single hint of damage. Elevator's looking good on the right. Elevator's looking good on the left. Let's take a look at the rudder's looking good too. Let's hold the... Oh my gosh, this thing is really built for it. Let's taxi her back out.
Battery 15.2 volts.
So I finally figured out the crankshaft on this plane. It sticks to the top left or top right. So you need a full throttle, full rudder, and full down elevator with full aileron. Just take her off to the right here.
Flaps up.
Let's make her go do that again. Man, that is awesome. Like when a model can tumble like that and hold inertia like a full-scale model can, or sorry, full-scale aircraft can, that is something I really enjoy. That just upped the review score for me. Okay, I just lost the canopy. I'll get it back. Good thing I did that out in the out where I did it. Bring her down, land her.
Full flaps.
I thought the rudder had come off or something.
Battery 15.1 volts. Flaps.
All right, let's taxi her all the way out there. Or at least over to here to me, so I can go pick her up and bring her out to get that canopy back on. So that's something to worry about. I may have to reinforce
Throttle cut.
the, what do you want to call it, the magnet on here so that it can actually hold up to these aerodynamic stresses, because we need to see what the G-force was on that. I wish I could show you the screen right now. G-force.
Battery 15.1 volts.
With those Lomcevak style crankshafts that I'm doing, Negative 7.4 Gs. That's a lot of airframe stress, and it's handling it beautifully. I mean, there's no sign of degradation to the foam hinges, and trust me, it can happen quickly. You can go from having a perfectly operational foam hinge to one that's completely busted and doesn't work anymore in very short order. So that it's still in such good shape is remarkable, given what I've been doing to it. I'm not going to tell you that I'm not trying to destroy this plane, because I am. That's part of the review for me. Like, if it's, you know, what use is a review for you guys if you can't really see what this thing can do? So this is phenomenal. I'm loving it, man. We'll have to get Tony out here and film it, because the crankshafts this thing does and the way it carries energy is just really, really good. So we're gonna push that back over. We're gonna get her back up in the air. If she can get out over here. And we're gonna keep flying. I'm impressed, man. I mean, Horizon, I don't want to say they outdid themselves with this model, but for it to do what I have it doing is nothing short of like really cool.
Elevated flap, wing normal.
It is interesting to walk and fly and talk at the same time, but it's like balancing on a broomstick sometimes. I could just put it in safe and do circles, but what fun is that?
Battery 14.8 volts.
All right, almost back to the flight line. Thankfully, there's nobody else out here, so me being in the middle of the grass field doesn't really cause any problems. The safety officer guy might have an issue with it. Throw it in safe real quick.
AS3X.
All right.
12 minutes.
I gotta admit, the weather is really, really nice too. After the rain, I'm gonna have to clean the crap out of the plane, which is what always happens when you go and fly after it just finished raining.
Battery 15 volts.
But it's what you got to deal with. Let's do a crankshaft thing again. You got to use the aileron input. That was just elevator input on that one, so it kind of did it, but then it didn't keep tumbling. There we go. If you don't do it at full throttle, you can actually still get it to look really good, but it's not going to throw the canopy off from what I can tell.
Battery 14.9 volts.
All right, let's do that one more time, bring her down, swap batteries out. Or maybe just do the final review. One more time, I didn't get the timing just right on that. This is my favorite move. Oh, didn't get it perfect on that one. That's okay. What was the signal losses, by the way?
197 losses, 82% strength.
Ah, it's nothing to worry about. I'm actually shocked that it's not higher with that radio tower to the left of us here. That's another thing that's nice about the airport I fly at. I don't have to deal with that tower.
Flaps up.
Okay, wind's picking up again.
Full flaps.
Does not want to come down. With it being very crosswindy out here and me just not wanting to mess the plane up, I'm just going for the safest possible way to land, which is just into the wind directly behind me. There we go. All right, let's cut here and then we'll go ahead and get into the thoughts and show you guys some more info on it before we wrap up and call it quits. All right, guys, so we're back. My review on this plane is basically complete at this point. I've done several flights. I've gone through and done pretty much anything I can imagine. This plane does flat spins, albeit not very great. It does rolling Harriers pretty well, better than I thought it was going to. With the ailerons and the prop wash, the way I've set it up. I actually do have to go over the setup for this, so you guys will have to see how to do it yourselves too. The crankshaft / Lomcevak maneuver this thing does is out of this world good. Like, that alone is enough for me to tell you to get it. The motor in it's pretty nice. The Avian Light ESC is pretty good too. I don't know if you can see my screen. I could probably just put it on the screen by recording it, but we're not going to do that for this one. Negative 7.4 Gs, positive 6.3 Gs. This thing took some serious G-force and doesn't have anywhere to show for it. The GPS worked great. It always will. I mean, there's really no problems there, but that's not really related to the model. The temperature was pretty good. We never really hit anything higher than 150 degrees on the ESC, which is impressive considering the amount of propeller it's using. Like a 12x6 is nothing to laugh at for a foam plane. That's pretty good stuff. The what do you want to call it? The model held up overall very, very well. I'm actually shocked at how well it held up. I almost thought that when that canopy came off that it was actually the rudder disintegrating, but everything's held up really well. It has amazing flight characteristics. It does some really good flying in general. I'd say, like I said, if you want an actual true unbiased verdict, because I don't get free models from companies, I would say get it. At the price point this thing's offered at and the things that it can do, it's not a trainer, but it flies really, really well, and it can do some great limited 3D and some pretty awesome 3D that can carry energy through the maneuvers, as you see me doing. The one thing it doesn't do well is hover. It kind of sucks for that, but you know, if you got a Commander expecting it to hover well, you can kind of just look at the airframe and just see that it's not going to. The wing shape's not exactly correct. It doesn't have the type motor or the type of motor you need. Unless you modify it, you don't have full span ailerons, so it's kind of hard to control the hover. Timbers are, funny enough, actually one of the better hovering models, but it doesn't generally have, like the turbo timber doesn't have ailerons in the prop wash unless you modify it. So you got to get really good at stick and rudder with that if you want it to stay in a hover. Bottom line, I like it. I think you guys will too. We're gonna go ahead and call it quits here. This has been John. I really hope you guys enjoy. Of course, my hair looks atrocious because I had a stupid camera attached to my head. I hope you guys, if you thought this was good or something interesting to watch, maybe consider hitting that like and subscribe button. Maybe even tell a friend too. Tony and I put a lot of work into this channel, and we're hoping that you guys get some good info out of it. Setup is coming right up after this, so have a good one, guys. Cheers. What's going on, guys? John here. By this point, you've already seen the Maiden Flight. That was yesterday. We're now on day 2, doing the setup part of the video, which is going to drop on Tuesday, which should be the 24th, I think, of May. This is a really capable model. I actually just shot the entire setup and realized I hadn't recorded the screen of the IX-20, so you guys couldn't follow along. So I got to reshoot this whole thing. That's okay. I made a bunch of mistakes when I was talking anyway. One of the key things to note with this model is that it's going to be very nose heavy by default. The balance point is here. I would ideally like to get it to here, maybe even here if possible. One of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to experiment with some motor leads that I've got, and I'm going to use these to see if I can get that ESC further back and maybe next to the receiver or something, get it further back, get some more weight shifted to the tail of this plane so it'll start potentially flying a little bit more neutral, so I can get the rudder to be more effective. So while we're here, let me go ahead and pop this camera on my head and we will talk about the setup process for this. It's very quick. I don't anticipate this taking more than 10 minutes tops. This is the nice thing with these prop planes. There's not a whole lot to them. We'll pop in the 3200 pack that I didn't get to finish yesterday, and I'll explain why. That's because of all the crankshaft type maneuvers you saw me doing started loosening up the prop on the collet. That's a big problem. And for any model you get that has a collet type adapter, you really need to take the time to take the adapter off and then run the motor with basically no load on it. Just take the prop and everything else off and hold a piece of sandpaper up to the piece of to the metal prop shaft, like the motor shaft, and just run it on low throttle with nothing on it. Hold the sandpaper up to it and just let it grind into it for about 3 to 5 seconds. Then I'll put some nice tiny grooves into it that the prop adapter can bite into, and then you can keep the prop from shooting off, kind of like the Carbon Z Cub did last September. So that's one of the things I did. I mean, this thing backed off almost, I'd say, a full centimeter. It was pretty far off of there, and the thing was sounding super unbalanced when I was flying it toward the end of the day. So I just landed it and I was like, all right, let's make sure we don't have a dead stick landing. So first and foremost, this plane is using 150% rates on everything but the elevator. I can't get 150 on that with the servo travel setup that I'm using because it will bind. I may have to cut some of the foam to make that work.
Heading AS3.
As you can see, 135% rates on that elevator is perfect. Let's go ahead and flip this over so you guys can see how I set up full span ailerons. If your flaps aren't defaulting to the midpoint, like if they're not set to 0, like they are right now, you're going to have to do some work to get them to be centered. You may have to reposition the servo arm. These flaps do travel upward by default. Okay, I didn't have to rehinge them to make them do this. So you can see that they move up and they move down. So there's nothing to worry about there. The full span mod is super easy to do. If you have to if you have to adjust this, just pop the servo door off with a screwdriver and then just reposition the servo arm and then adjust the linkages. Either way, you pretty much do have to adjust these linkages because they're designed to be short. So I had to, twist them out a bit and add a drop of CA glue in there to give them a little bit of strength, but they hold up really well. For control horn and servo arm positions, on all of the servo arms I'm using the outermost hole. On the control horns for the ailerons, it's the outermost hole. For the horn on the flaps, it is the middle hole, that is, and outermost hole on the horns for the elevator and the rudder, outermost hole on the control arms as well for the servo arms. So that produces a ton of power and torque and the ability for this plane to do almost anything you want it to do. That all being said, the full span setup does require a little bit of finagling, so I had to set my sub trim to make them be centered. So you'll have to do that too, most likely, unless your servo arms, like the push rods, are slightly longer, because mine weren't. So if I made them any longer on these little black pieces here, they would have popped off. So the sub trim I've set, let me go ahead and actually, while I'm showing you this, go ahead and sync up now. 3, 2, 1, starting now. Okay, cool. Now we're actually recording, unlike last time. The sub trim for the right flap is set to 17 or 115 on here, and the left flap is 9, aka a value of 60. That gets it to be completely centered. I don't want to uncenter it. Trust me, they just pop down and they're not level with the wing at all if you don't have the sub trim enabled. And there's no amount of trimming I could find mechanically that would fix it without having these ball link adapters pop off, which would be bad. I don't want that. Okay, so let's flip this plane over real quick. I gotta put this transmitter down real fast. Again, 150% rates on everything except for the elevator. So let's go through and just show you guys that real quick, so you can see it on screen. So 150 for ailerons, elevator 135. That's as far as I can physically travel. Otherwise, it would be 150. Flaperons are 150 and 150. You get amazing throw on that. Let's go ahead and show you guys how reverse. Actually, before we get to reverse thrust, let's show you the mixing for full span ailerons. So for that, you need to do aileron to left flap. If you're using the well, before I even show you this, for those of you guys who haven't done this yet, you need to go to model setup, aircraft type, hold that prop just in case it decides to fly off and go crazy in failsafe. We're using 1 aileron, 2 flaps. That's all you need to do for this setup. And then to get full span ailerons, after you've done that, make sure that the channel 6 is connected. For channel 6 to be connected, because I have the flaps split, I'm not going to take the plane apart and show you because it's too annoying to do, but this is pretty much the exact same type of servo lead that came with it. Okay, so I went in there and I cut. Let me take this off my head so I can make sure you guys are seeing what I'm looking at. I cut this part off at the root right there, and then I connected a new DuPont connector to it. And that, I'll show you what a DuPont connector kit looks like. I'll have it linked in the description for you guys. It is really cool. I think it's like 25 bucks for this whole kit. It's not the best thing in the world, but it works really well. You get this thing with it. It allows you to crimp the connectors onto it. You can look up how to do DuPont connecting. I'm not going to cover it here. It's too much effort really to show you guys. And I might not even be doing it perfectly myself, and I don't want to give you bad advice. But use one of these kits, and then you can make your own connector for it, and then you can plug that in to the 6th channel. And then on mine, I'll open it up real quick just to demonstrate that I have because it's not like a JR connector, whatever it is, it doesn't exactly fit in there perfectly, so it's a little slightly loose. So I use that electrical tape to hold it in place, and it can't move. Simple as that. So for the full span ailerons, mix 1, aileron to left flap, switch D2 controls this at a rate of 100% to 100%. So that produces an aileron response that you would expect. As the right aileron goes down, the flaperon on the right goes down. Same in reverse on the left side. As the aileron goes up, the flaperon goes up. Again, no rehinging is necessary to do this. These flaps move up and down out of the box, which is awesome. This is the first time I haven't had to rehinge a plane for full span ailerons from Horizon that I can remember recently. The RV7 took a lot of work to make that work. This one, tons of throw without having to do significant modifications. Good job, Horizon. I'm glad you guys, I think they're listening to me, or at least I'd like to think so. Cool stuff. For the Harrier mixing, as useless as it is so far, as you've seen, the snap flap works really well. Elevator to right flap is the mix. A rate of 100% to 125 produces a 1-to-1 elevator to flap movement. For position 2, switch F, it's negative 125 to 125, negative 125 that is, and that produces upward flap movement in response to the elevator. It doesn't do much. If I could get the ailerons to move up too, it might work well, but these wings are so large that I don't know if they can cancel enough of the lift to get the wing out of the way and let it fly on a stable Harrier like I can with the Night Timber X, and partially because the Timber X has humongous control surfaces that take up like half of the wing, where these are just kind of like tiny surfaces in relation to the size of the wing. That's probably the problem that we're seeing with it. That's all of the mixing. That's most of the setup right there. Let's go ahead and show you guys reverse thrust and how that's done. I programmed mine through my Spectrum transmitter, so let's go ahead and pull that off. You got to do this within the first 30 seconds to get into the menu, otherwise it just kind of like times out. Okay, you scroll all the way to the right, go to Smart ESC, make sure your throttle cut is on, make sure you're pulling 150, at least whatever your rates are. If you go to 150, you have to be in 150% rates for it to work. Hold up and left aileron until it tells you to go right, which it will any moment now. Okay, now go to right. All right, we should now be in the menu. It's probably going to be all weird looking. Yeah, so we have to hold this, go back out, and then come back into it, and it will reset the menu so it's actually displaying the text correctly. There we are. So your brake type needs to be changed to reverse. So you just move the stick to the right or left to change that. I set my brake force to 7. I have my cutoff type to soft cutoff. Cutoff voltage is disabled. I'd rather burn a battery pack than burn the model up by crashing it. Voltage is the same, don't mess with that, leave it at 6 volts. Startup time should be very soft or soft by default. Set that to normal if you want to have quick instantaneous throttle response. Timing is still set to 15, I didn't change that. There's no reason to, the model is designed to fly with 15 timing. Don't change motor rotation because it's already set that way. It rotates the correct direction out of the box. And then I set my thrust reverse channel to channel 7, which is controlled by switch A. You can set that in the channel assignment. If you go to model setup and then channel assign and hold down proceed, you'll see that, what is it? Okay, yeah, 5. Sorry, channel 7. Okay, so channel input is 5 gear switch A, but I probably have it set to channel 7 as gear. So in the receiver port assignment, gear is channel 7, but in the channel input, it's controlling, the gear channel is channel 5. So channel 5 actually controls channel 7, which controls the reverse thrust.
Throttle open.
If that doesn't make sense, just watch this.
Engine reversed. Engine normal. Throttle cut.
Totally works fine. That's how you set up reverse thrust on your transmitter. If I went too fast for you, everything's on screen. You should be able to catch up and follow along easily. I think that covers everything, guys. If there's anything I didn't cover in this, let me know and I will cover it for you, or at least answer it in a question. That all being said, appreciate you guys for watching, and thanks for helping me get to 2,000 subscribers plus. And I look forward to many more. See you guys out there. Cheers.